Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel. Today we'll be looking at the Rover 800 series. Welcome back, and if you're new to Quarterlight, we look at car brochures from around the world 3 times a week. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to today's episode, the Rover 800. First launched in 1986, we're looking at the Mark I, and indeed the car brochure today is that launch brochure from 86. The Mark I ran up till 1991. Interestingly, for the first couple of years it was manufactured by Austin Rover and then under the Rover Group name. And it was co-developed with Honda. It was kind of like a little bit of a change in this sort of executive class for Rover. No V8s, we've now got a front wheel drive vehicle. But anyway, without further ado, let's have a look at today's brochure. Okay, so today's brochure, well, in fact it's really like a little bit of a cover for the brochure. It's quite fancy really. You know, open the page and you know, you've got all the contents within. You've got the main brochure here. You've got the colour and trim guides. You've got finance options, range information, and something they refer to as the better executive decision. So I'll remove most of this for now. And one thing you do notice with this, it's quite a thick sort of cardstock, but the printing itself isn't very good. It's kind of like a very low quality print. So yeah, it's trying to look executive and fancy, but I think they tried a little bit too hard really. But anyway, this is today's brochure. Interestingly enough, this is from 1986, this particular brochure and this particular folder. I think this is the launch brochure. On the back, the code on there is, if I just have a look a bit closer, it's 3802. You probably won't be able to see it quite well there, so let's just zoom in a little bit and I'll tell you the reason why we're looking at that in a moment. There we go, and this is actually where your dealer stamp would normally be, and as I said at the start, it's under Austin Rover at this time. So Austin Rover Group, 1986, publication number 3802. They must have been having some changes very early on. It's almost like they've kind of like rushed these brochures, because pretty soon afterwards they came out with this brochure, same year as you notice, but this is 3802A. And you'll notice, and I will kind of compare and probably drop this brochure in a few times, because there's some models that don't actually appear on the very early one and the A one, strangely, like there was playing around with the range earlier on. But we'll certainly have a look at this brochure, so let's turn these brochures over and start looking inside. Okay, and straight away it opens up into this very sort of wordy text titled The Vision and the Mark. So here it's talking about, you know, this new range is a new breed of car, etc, etc. And then it's talking about the Mark, where it's saying, you know, this is still a Rover. We're not going to read all that, obviously, it's the video before too long, but what we'll find now is this actually opens up. So we'll try and open this up, although it's extremely long, so I'm not sure how I'm going to get all this into the camera shot, but I'll certainly try somehow. But you know what, it's a great picture, isn't it, in this lovely metallic blue colour, very sort of popular colour at the time, and it's a very sleek looking design. I think it's a model that's kind of like grown on me. I didn't really think too much of them when they were launched, but now when I look back, I do think this is a car that's really aged very well in design. The sort of two-tone colours on this particular model. Let me know what you think in the comments, what you think about these, but they've certainly a design that's kind of like grown on me over the years. Inside this particular high spec model, and we'll certainly look at the different models in a moment. But in this particular level of trim, it's a very beautiful looking interior, very nice leather seats, traditional sort of the English tradition of putting this sort of wood inside. And overall, I think it was kind of like a very pleasant looking interior, certainly on these higher spec models. Next page, we got various little images, so we'll zoom in on a few of them. I think I zoom in on that front dash with this very lots of red, isn't it? It's very red coloured themed dash, but certainly very well equipped on this particular model. No doubt a high spec model again. I look at the sort of wing mirrors, how they kind of like that aerodynamic shape, and coefficient I think was 0.32 on this one, so it was a very aerodynamic design actually. Also, I'll look at the wood, and also how at this time they started designing interiors to kind of like sweep around to the doors, and also this little vent. It would allow this vent to come through the side to do a quicker clearing of those side windows. And we also get a little bit of a rear view of this car with that very large boot area. It gives us a little bit of an image of the Rover twin cam 16 valve engine, which would have been the 2-litre unit, so you would have seen that on versions such as the 820i, 820 SI, top speed 125 miles an hour. But on the higher spec models, the 825i and the super top of the range Rover Sterling, that would have actually had a 24 valve 2.5 litre V6, and that would have been actually a Honda developed engine. And then finally we get to the different models proper, and also this is where things get a little bit confusing when we look at this brochure and sort of the updated brochure that had that A designation, which I'm presuming that A probably means alteration, but we'll look at both of them and see what we think. But this is showing the Rover 820i, and it's kind of like showing this blurred shot of how you can move the steering wheel up and down. So the super basic model with wheel trims on there, and in this case a flat red. Notice no sort of colour coded door mirrors on there or anything like that, so this is like your base model. Let's just have a look what it's saying, a little bit at least what it's saying on here. So it says, style with purpose. The Rover 820i makes a definitive appeal to the driver's instincts well before the 16 valve engine murmurs into life. From the low bonnet line and rake screen to the recessed wipers, every detail of that sleek shape is fine-tuned to slip through the air with quietness and economy. And then it goes on to talk about some of the security, some of the features, etc. I'm not going to read all that, but obviously you could actually, if you really wanted to, you could pause the screen if you wanted to look at some of that. And there it continues on the other side, and again you can pause if you wanted to read, but it tells you things like your available options include alloy wheels, glass sunroof, black or clear coat metallic paint, and headlamp wash. The Rover 820i will be available with automatic transmission before the end of '86, so you can see this is a very early brochure. Not really got everything really sorted out at this time, but let's have a look at that slightly newer brochure, which is probably only a couple of months difference. So incidentally, on this newer brochure by probably just a couple of months, all the pages up to this page have been exactly the same. The difference being we get the exact same picture, but this time we're calling it the 820e, and it's even got that same sort of steering wheel picture of that tilting steering wheel, but like I say, exactly the same car that we was calling the 820i a moment ago. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it, how they've changed that so quickly. We will have a quick look at the text on this as well. The text is actually extremely similar. It's kind of like reworded in certain ways, but you know, it's a similar sort of theme on there. And like I say, if you want to read that, you can do. And that also continues on the other page as well. This is saying the options now are a glass sunroof, black or clear coat metallic paint, headlamp wash, and alloy wheels. And again, it says automatic transmission will be available before the end of 86. So you can see there really isn't much difference in time between that first brochure and this one. But I just wanted to show you how that kind of like 820e has suddenly appeared. Okay, so back to that original brochure. Let's turn the page, see what else it's showing us in the range. It's going from the 820i to the 820SI, which kind of like makes logical sense. Again, that metallic blue, which I think really does suit the car. A little bit of a higher spec model, so let's have a look at some of that. You can certainly see straight away it's got a manual sunroof on this one. It's saying here, from the very first glance, the Rover 820SI states it's identified as a supremely elegant sporting saloon. The harmonious Rover 800 styling with body colour bumpers, grille and door handles is given additional emphasis by the subtle touches of a slim coach line, bright waist rail trim and distinctive wheel covers. And then it goes on to tell us about, you know, we've got this remote key now on there. But of course, like I say, you can always pause it if you do want to read the entire brochure. It continues on the other side by talking about this opening glass sunroof. And it says the main picture is showing the Rover 820SI with optional headlamp wash. It is unusual, isn't it, that this sort of like headlamp wash became like a optional extra. And now, of course, cars don't have that sort of wash system. That's kind of like strange how that time changed. All of a sudden we don't need headlamp wash. Or did we ever need it? Let me know in the comments what you think. So the question really is, what comes in this slightly newer brochure? Is this the 820SI? Well, no. On this slightly newer brochure, this is calling this the 820SE. You notice this small picture is exactly the same as this brochure up here. And we've even got this sort of manual sunroof picture and this remote locking picture as well. A nicer view of the interior though, so let's have a closer look at that and then some of the text. So a very logically laid out dashboard. I think certainly these slopes certainly identified this these 800 series dashboards, and we've got a little bit of wood trim coming in now, haven't we? Now let's move down and have a look at some of this text, if I can get it all in there. There we go. Sorry it's a bit slopey. I'll try and fix that a little bit for you. So it's saying, like the Rover 820e, the prestigious new Rover 820 SE is powered by a 16-valve 2-litre engine fueled by the sophisticated single-point injection system and offers still more impressive luxury. And, you know, it can continue down there telling us, you know, it's got SE badging, etc, etc. And then, like I say, that's that same picture, isn't it? And then over the side it continues, and like I say, you can always pause these if you do need to have a look at it. It says options for the luxurious Rover include air conditioning, black or clear coat metallic paint, rear head restraints and that headlamp wash. Okay, so we move away from this 820 SE back to the original older brochure for the SI. And one interesting thing is, and a bit of a surprise when you turn the picture, yes, we get that interior picture that we saw a moment ago for the SE. A little bit more text I'll show you. There is a bit of an interior picture I might zoom in on, and then let's move on to the next model. A little bit more text, which, like I say, you can pause if you want to read it all, but it's telling us things like electric windows, etc, etc. and then finishing over the other side with sort of like the same sort of additional options that it was talking about on the previous model. So let's turn the page. Oops, just before I do actually turn the page, I did promise that interior shot. And there is that interior, certainly a lot plainer, isn't it? It's actually showing the automatic on here actually, which hasn't actually arrived. What it kept saying was later on in the year, so a picture of a car you actually couldn't get right on that time actually, and you know, sort of no wood panels around the edge. So what do we find? We've leapt straight to the Rover 825s now, so we've moved up to that larger engine, the sort of higher class of 800 series. Is that the case with this newer Brochure? Does that too go straight to the 825s? Let's have a look. We move up to we're now at that 820i, which we started off in the original Brochure. Different picture, but there we go. And then we move up to the 820SI. Different picture, but there it is. Particularly nice colour, I must admit, showing those rear head restraints. And then this one too goes to the 825i and kind of like matches that original Brochure. So interesting really how they played around with the trim levels. They didn't really have a firm idea of the trim levels, I guess, and we'll certainly have a look at some of the specifications for the trims in a bit, but let's have a look at the 825i. Okay, so the Rover 825i, the hallmark of the final luxury car is the effortless ease with which it meets the most demanding situations, a quality which you soon come to appreciate in the exclusive Rover 825i. I'm not going to read it all, but I'll certainly put it on the screen for you to read, and you can pause it if needed. Carries on talking about some of the little extras and little bits on the 825i. This is quite a nice little feature. A subtle windscreen shade band filters the midday sun, and in poor weather, power wash keeps the headlamps clear of mud and spray. It's telling us that when we actually do get to the picture, it's got optional alloy wheels, which you kind of think would have been standard on this higher model. On the back, you get a picture of this rear seat, and a very nice feature on this, isn't it, to be able to move that seat to almost become like a limousine type of seat you could chauffeur somebody around in comfort. The wood has appeared again on the doors, but a very nice interior, and a nice feature about these Rovers were always these little ability to put your seatbelt clips and tuck them away in his own little spot, which I always thought was a nice little touch. And furthermore showing that sweeping line of the wood, etc., and a little bit more equipment on this model as well. And he starts talking about that burr walnut inserts in the text, etc. Handcrafted in matched sets grace the doors and the seats, etc., etc. And it says you can choose from a comprehensive list of options, which include anti-lock braking, air conditioning, leather seat fascias, and electric glass sunroof. So you can certainly spec it up as you want, and it tells us, you know, that's reclining rear seat picture, the burr walnut inserts, and that in-car entertainment trip computer and vehicle map. We've still not even seen a picture of this 825 yet, so we need to rectify that. It opens the opposite way to give you a nice big picture of this 825, looking very sophisticated in this particular colour, and you can see the colour matched door mirrors, these optional alloy wheels, and the headlamp wash. And then we move up to the top of the range. It's kind of like the car you aspired to have if you had a Rover 800 series, kind of like equivalent to Ford having their Gear. Rover had the Sterling. So this is the ultimate top of the range model. So let's have a look at some of these techs before we do a similar thing and have a proper look at the car. Okay, so the Sterling, a great deal of careful thought created the most luxurious model in the new Rover range. The aim, to design a car which would anticipate every wish of the discerning driver. Starts talking about that V6 engine, starts talking about ABS, etc., which you can certainly read if you want to. And then it starts talking about inside the beautifully crafted interior, really showing this as being like the top of the range model. You'll find a warm welcome on the most freezing mornings too, with a heater element in the driver's seat to take the chill out of those early starts. We forget sort of like heated seats were like only on the very top of the range cars not too long ago at all. And we do get a small image of the car at this stage, but we'll have a better look in a moment. It carries on talking about the how well appointed this car is. It says even on the longest journeys you may be reluctant to leave the Rover Sterling's opulent environment, with seats facing in the silken softness of Connolly leather and sumptuous shag pile carpet. A little bit more information there about the speakers, etc., if you want to have a read of all that. And then it talks about amazingly, cruise control is available at an extra cost. You kind of like would have thought that would have been on there. We've got black or clear coat metallic paint finishes, 5-speed manual transmission, or no cost extras. And then if we go down, we can have a look at some of the pictures. Rear seat adjustments and electric rear window controls. These controls look very, very old-fashioned, don't they? But like I say, a very high-spec car for the time. Okay, so let's open this brochure up to reveal the car itself, the car you aspire to have. I do like the rear with this reflection going all the way across, and we get this sort of two-tone colour with this stripe going down the back there. And if we zoom into the rear, actually, it does look a little bit different, doesn't it? That sort of Sterling badge on the back and those twin exhausts. We do also get a little bit of a interior shot as well. We then get to a picture of sort of like the original sketches for the 800 series, which is nice. Some various bits of information which we haven't really got time to go through today. This opens up to give sort of like a X-ray view of this and the engines, etc., that was available. And then we finally turn the page and get to the specification page. I've switched this over to the newer brochure because it does show them 2 extra models that were added. So I've zoomed in on all the available models at this time. So we've got them E models. So it's telling us the E and the 820i and the SE and the SI have got identical equipment on them. That's why they got away with using those same pictures as the earlier brochure. Crafty, yeah? So the only reason where the E models, the E and the SE models really affect anything is in both performance and economy, because E is for economy, and we'll see them economy figures how they change in a moment. Okay, so here are the specifications for the Rover 800. Remembering the lower spec models are on this left hand side, the higher spec models, the Sterling is on the far right hand side, and we've combined the E and the I and the SE and the SI. I'm not going to read through all this obviously, but of course you can pause this screen anytime if there's anything particular you want to have a look at. And that comes to the bottom of that first page. And then the second page. And then it kind of like features the dimensions like these brochures always seem to like doing. Before it gets to the sort of fuel economy itself. And you can see on this top line, if we compare the E models with the normal injection models, that the E models is certainly slightly better fuel economy. And that was the real aim of them E's and why they were added on. You do also notice though, if we look at the performance figures, certainly the E models are certainly slower in a 0 to 60. So that brings us to the end of the brochure, although I thought I might as well just throw this extra brochure in to show the different colours and trims available. Although I was saying at the start the printing isn't the best on this model, but I think it's because it's the type of cardstock they used. The printing hasn't really worked too well on it, so the quality is a bit down on these, sadly. But if you do open the page, it does give a nice sort of colour chart. You can see how the ink went all the way through when it was printed. So yeah, not too impressive there. The quality isn't quite there. Who would have thought? Let's zoom in on some of these colours anyway. And this is from the launch actually, so this is the launch brochure showing the colours available. White diamond, targa red, burgundy red and black has been solid colours. Then we've got clear coat metallics, silver leaf, strata grey, shantung gold, lynx bronze, Oporto red, silk green, azure blue and moonraker blue, and the jewel tones for those lovely sterlings. White diamond with gunmetal, silver leaf with gunmetal, shantung gold with gunmetal and Oporto red with gunmetal. So a nice colour choice on there. Interior colours as well, and with this is, like I said, it's very early brochure, so it's not showing the E models, but I think we can probably assume the interior trims on the 820i is the same as the E, and likewise the SE the same as the SI, but that gives us a little bit of an idea of the nice choice on there. And then if we go down, we've also got the 825, what it's called diagonal velvet, and the sterling's leather choices. And just a quick look at the price list just to see, and this is from the launch, so the E models aren't appearing here. Give you an idea of how much you would have had to pay for your 800 series Rover. So there you go, your base model, your 820i was 11,870.47 on the road, and your sterling was quite a bit more expensive at 18,794.65. It also gives you an idea of some of the options and how much they were. Interesting, one of the options was that cellular mobile telephone, interestingly enough. But remember, these were like executive, probably businessmen type cars. And a few more, a little bit of an idea of how much some of those optional extras cost. So there we go. So interesting to see how that brochure changed in probably just a couple of months, to add those E models in there. And actually this was a brochure review, been asked by a couple of people, both asking about the sterling and that E model. So I just apologise it's taken me so long to get that out there. Let me know what you think about the Rover 800. Like I say, it's a model that's kind of like grown on me over the years. Let me know what you think. But for now, we'll say thank you so much for watching Course Light today. There'll be many more brochure review videos coming out very soon. So please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon. So take care and goodbye.